The current iPad lineup is a little confusing, and with 5, technically 6 different options, knowing which one is the right one for you can be tricky. So as someone who's used these 3 different iPads in the past few years, I'm gonna try to help you figure that out. So, let's talk tech. I'm Agent Ardently Tech, and I think the best place to start is actually looking at the different options that we do have. And since Apple didn't release any new iPads in 2023, we can expect this lineup to stay the same until probably late 2024. So let's start with the cheapest and go all the way to the most expensive iPad you can get. The iPad 9th generation retails at $330 and goes up to $610 depending on the specs that you decide to get with it. It still has the old design, the old Touch ID sensor, and it rocks the A13 Bionic chip. The newer iPad 10th generation retails at $450 and goes all the way up to $750. It has an A14 Bionic chip and the only iPad that has the front-facing camera in the right place. The next one on the price ladder is actually this one, the iPad mini 6th generation, which retails at $500 and goes all the way up to $800. It has an A15 Bionic chip and is the smallest iPad that you can get right now. The 4th iPad you can get is the iPad Air 5th generation that retails at $600 and goes all the way up to $900. It's the first iPad in the lineup that has the M series chip and Magic Keyboard compatibility. Now we get to the iPad Pros, which because of the size difference, I consider them as 2 different devices. So you get the iPad Pro 11-inch and the 12.9. For the 11-inch model, that retails at $800 and goes all the way up to $2,100. Dang. It has the M2 chip and the ProMotion display just like the 12.9 iPad Pro, but unlike the larger model, the 11-inch iPad Pro doesn't have the XDR display. The 12.9 iPad Pro is the largest iPad you can get and the most expensive, retailing at $1,100 and going up all the way to $2,400. It also has the M2 chip like I mentioned, and it has the best and brightest display. Now with all those options laid out, which one is right for you? And I want to get this out of the way right now. The iPad Pro, though it has the greatest and latest specs that you can get on an iPad, doesn't mean it's the best one to get for you. I feel like the iPad Pro really catches the eye of a lot of people because of all the bells and whistles that it has, but it's not necessarily for everyone. I'll get into that in a little bit, but I broke these iPads up into 4 groups. Those for the simple user, those who need the most powerful, those who want the best value, and then those who want the most iPad of iPads. And in my opinion, the underrated superstar. Stay tuned to figure out who that is. But let's start with the simple user. I think the simple user is someone who's going to use this iPad once in a while, read some news, maybe check your email, maybe for entertainment purposes, or maybe you want to use it in the kitchen while you're cooking so you can follow a recipe. If you're not going to use your iPad every single day or maybe just on an occasional basis, I think the best iPad for those users is really the 9th generation iPad, which is the cheapest iPad. In the same category, I would also consider the 10th generation iPad because it's nearly the same iPad as the 9th generation, just with a newer display, a newer chip, and USB-C. Though it's $130 more than the iPad 9th generation, there's also a couple other benefits with the newer display, but again, if you just use it casually, you might not even need that newer display or care about the newer display. So the $329 price of the iPad 9th generation is really just hard to beat. And the nice thing about the cheaper price of the 9th generation iPad, you can get the cellular model for just $130 more. And if you want to get the cellular model, I highly recommend trying out Mint Mobile. And luckily we partnered with Mint Mobile for today's video. If you didn't know, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for as low as $15 a month. And now through January 1st, 2024, if you purchase a 3-month plan, you'll get an extra 3 months free added to the plan if you use our link mintmobile.com/ardently. Mint Mobile is on the nation's largest 5G network, which is great because saving money shouldn't come at the cost of quality service. I've used Mint on my iPad mini and it's been great to have service on this iPad on the go. And switching to Mint is really easy thanks to their eSIM service. It can be done all online in just a few minutes. So if you want to save money and you're thinking of switching, this is the time to do it because this offer expires on January 1st, 2024. So if you want to make that switch, make sure to use our link, mintmobile.com/ardently. The link will be in the description. So those who need the most powerful iPad out there, you're obviously going to want the Pro models. But which Pro model and who does that actually cover? Well, it might be a smaller group of y'all than you think. For a long time now, the iPad Pro, especially the 12.9, has been considered a MacBook replacement, and I can still see that, but for a lot of creators, the iPad OS is just simply too limited to actually replace a MacBook Pro. Which makes sense on Apple's part because they want you to buy this and a MacBook. They don't want you just to buy this. They want to make money. So in my opinion, a lot less people actually need this device. The people who really do need to consider the iPad Pro, especially the 12.9 iPad Pro, those of you whose work would benefit having the high refresh rate and the XDR display. So I think of artists who are designers, illustrators, animators, and probably photographers or photo editors. And that's probably all I would consider. Because if you're a video editor, I just don't believe the apps that are available right now are enough for extreme video editing. Simple video editing, sure, but I could be wrong. I tried using the iPad version of Final Cut Pro and it was unique, but it wasn't a replacement, a full replacement to the iPad system. It wasn't something I could see myself fully replacing the Mac version of Final Cut Pro with. So really, I think the only people who should consider this iPad is those of you who would benefit from this display. The XDR, the ProMotion, and maybe the largeness of the display. Otherwise, I think people should really go towards the best value iPad, which in my opinion is the iPad Air. With it having the M1 chip and being $200 cheaper than the iPad Pro 11-inch model, I think the iPad Air is really the best value per dollar. This one's my wife. She has the 4th generation iPad Air. It has the A14 Bionic chip, I believe, and it's a still really powerful device. Sure, the base model storage capacity leaves much to be desired, and maybe that $200 bump to the iPad Pro 11-inch might be worth it in that sense. But in most people's use case, you don't need that extra 64 gigabytes of memory because the availability of cloud storage nowadays. And say you have $800 to spare, I would still suggest getting the iPad Air because then you could use the extra money that you save towards the Magic Keyboard, which is a hefty price on its own. And the best part about the iPad Air is that it's the most versatile of the bunch. You can use it as a pseudo MacBook replacement to do like easy tasks like checking emails, writing papers, creating presentations. This iPad can do all of those things. Or you can use it with an Apple Pencil instead and it be more of a nice notepad to have. Really, I think this iPad is for almost everyone. Students, creatives, workers, people who need something just to keep organized. This iPad can do it all, and because you can use it with the Magic Keyboard, it takes the versatility to another level. Before I had the iPad Pro, I had the similar iPad to my wife's iPad Air 4th generation. I recorded a podcast, I edited that podcast, and I uploaded that podcast all on my iPad Air 4th generation. So imagine what this iPad can do with the M1 chip. I just don't think the things that are missing from the iPad Pro to the iPad Air is that big of a gap that it costs $200 more. Sure, you have Face ID on the Pro models exclusively, but the Touch ID is honestly really reliable and never lets me down. Do I prefer Face ID? Absolutely. But if it's Touch ID that much of an issue, I really don't think so. The ProMotion display, sure, you might be able to see if you slow down footage. A lot of people do that, but just looking at it, you really don't see that much of a difference between the ProMotion display and the display on the iPad Airs. That's why I think the iPad Air has the best value, the most versatile, and is probably for most people. But the underrated superstar, in my opinion, is really the iPad mini. Yeah, this little guy. I did a full review on the iPad mini, and the most annoying flaw about the iPad mini was its price. It was really, really expensive. And the only reason why I got the iPad mini is because I found it for a really great deal at a local game store. It's a 256 cellular model, so it's usually supposed to be $800 and I got it for $340. And it was in great condition, no scratches on the display, and it still had warranty for another few months after I bought it. I had done the review on the iPad because I had seen a lot of videos of people suddenly appreciating the iPad mini, where I remember when it first came out, a lot of people were confused about the device. And my conclusion about why I think people were starting to love and appreciate the iPad mini was because this iPad is strictly an iPad. This iPad is not trying to replace a MacBook. It's not trying to replace your cell phone either, though you probably could if you get the cellular model like I do. The thing it does best is just be a companion device like the iPad was supposed to be. Whether you're checking emails, writing papers, or just using it as an entertainment device, this iPad is the all-around perfect companion device. So for me, it's the underrated superstar. Sure, would I love Face ID? Yes. Would I love a ProMotion display? Yes. Would I like an M series model chip on this device? Yes. But I think the most important feature to me is the Apple Pencil 2 support. My primary use of using this iPad is to take notes at work. Whenever I need to do something, instead of typing it down, which I can easily forget if I do, writing it down makes that memory stick a little bit better. Again, the only thing I really wish was different was the price, but honestly, I think this iPad could suffice for almost everyone who needs an iPad, especially if you're looking for something that's going to be a companion to your MacBook or a companion to your iPhone, but not necessarily replace one or the other. So hopefully this helped you figure out which iPad is the one for you, but if you have more questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my abilities. And if you want to watch the full review on the iPad mini, you can check it out right here in any of our videos over here. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.